So I'm very glad to welcome David Linse, the head of international affairs of the City of Mannheim, and Rainer Kern, who's been working with David for a couple of years now on matters of international affairs. And we brought the two of you to this conversation because you seem to be quite an interesting team. Charles Landry says in one of his books that good creative city making, good creative bureaucracy requires improvised jazz on the one hand, but also the structure and the predictability of a symphony orchestra. And the two of you, David working from within the administration, Rainer supporting him more or less, but from not such formal structures from within the bureaucracy, seem quite an interesting team. And so I'm wondering and would, first want to start off with asking you, for how long have the two of you been working together and how, in fact, did that come about? So who came up with that idea?
I guess, David, do you remember? Almost 10 years, I guess. I mean, we're working in the same city, in the same administration, and we are, of course, both interested in the same topic. So automatically we met and we started to work together.
Well, to fulfill all prejudices we have with regard to civil servants, I have looked up in my email archive to answer the question precisely. No, but it's interesting maybe to see how our working relations started, because I joined the city administration of Mannheim in 2009. Before that time, I was working in Brussels as a EU professional. And at that time, Rainer had an interesting and very important position in Mannheim, because he was advising the mayor on the question of the possibility to apply as a European capital of culture. And I had no, let's say, personal relation to Mannheim at that time. I really was a newcomer, and I was really fascinated from the idea that the city of Mannheim thinks about applying for this really prestigious European Culture Award, because this also reflects, let's say, the perception of the city of Mannheim towards basic European values. And in that time, our cooperation started, because, of course, I said, if I'm responsible for EU affairs, I want to support this great idea and indirectly also support the work of Rainer. And in September 2009, I think we had a first business trip together to Brussels together with the mayor in order to, let's say, advocate for the city of Mannheim on a European level. And that's how the cooperation started, just immediately after I joined the team in Mannheim.
So that sounds a little bit as if Rainer was some sort of a source of inspiration for you. Is that correct? Back then, like to go to Mannheim and work for the city?
Well, to be honest, Rainer was not the case for me to go to Mannheim, so I didn't knew him before I joined the municipality. But if you are new in an administration, of course you search for other people who work on, let's say, similar issues. And my task was to support the city administration in, let's say, being more active on a European level. That means receiving EU funds. That's the basic thing. But for example, I have advocated for the city of Mannheim becoming member of Eurocities, the city of the network of major European cities, and culture plays an important role within Eurocities. So it was rather natural that Rainer was an ally for me, and maybe also the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and how do you work together? So how do you work together to basically support each other in achieving the objectives that you have?
So as we just heard, we worked together for more than 10 years on the subject of international anything. And so there's quite a routine in our work as we know each other for more than 10 years, and we travel together also in this regard. So this is we work as it evolved over the 10 years, let's say. If you want to hear details, I don't know, should we really tell them, David? The secrets of success?
Yes. Maybe they would be disappointed because it's not so let's say interesting that it maybe not. No, I think it really depends on the projects that we are working. So I would say that the latest large scale project, if I may call it this, was the participation of the City of Mannheim at the World Urban Forum in Abu Dhabi. It was at the beginning of this year before the worldwide travel restrictions, and usually we start our cooperation in projects like this some weeks or months in advance, and let's say that the closer an event like this is coming, the more intense the cooperation is getting. And I think both of us, including our mayor, are persons who let's say also work on untypical working hours, especially when you look at public administrations, and it's great fun, and the results are fine. And I think if you look what the City of Mannheim, and of course it's not only Rainer and myself, I think we are part of a broader team. And we have a great political leadership. I want to point this out, and the results are motivating you to go further.
How far do you think it's helpful that an insider and an outsider are working together on these issues? An insider of public administration and someone who's like quite close yet not really part of the structure. Do you think this is helpful in achieving and succeeding at certain projects? And if so, in what respects?
I think in general it's important to have an inside and outside view. And as David already mentioned, he used to work in Brussels. So he has a kind of an outside view to the city, which is quite important, as I was born in Mannheim. So for me, I know every stone in Mannheim, I would say. Every second, let's say. So
in fact, like David is a little bit the outsider. You would even in certain respects, yeah.
No, that's what I want to say. In this regard, he has the outside view. I have the inside view totally, as I was born there, which means something. And on the other hand, with his background as civil servant that I don't have, that's the other way around. Then he's kind of an insider and I'm kind of an outsider. And I guess that's good to have a mixture like that. But it depends on which level we're looking at. It's not only about being a civil servant from your history, personal history or not. You can also have different other levels where you have inside and outside. And I think this combination is quite valuable. And as I think in a duo constellation, it's good to have different people in a duo. Otherwise, one can leave, right? So, and I guess this is important to have this in any case.
Yes.
Well, I hope that you are not disappointed now, but I fully agree with Rainer, because I understood your question in a certain way, that you define Rainer as the outsider with regard to the administration, and myself as the insider. And I completely agree with Rainer that it's a question of the perspective. I think everybody is somewhere an insider. Like if you, for example, Rainer is a complete insider in international cultural networks and activities, and maybe I'm an insider when it comes to the management structures of the city. And I do believe that these different perspectives are very valuable, and I think if you set up teams, 2 people or larger teams, it's good to have these different perspectives. Try to be brief, but I want to explain this, how we are working. For example, our department, and Rainer is also involved in that, of course, is at the moment carrying out a project, a quite prestigious project in Turkey. So we are setting up an education center for female Syrian refugees as a local project, city-to-city cooperation. And the team members do not only consist of members of the administration, but also consists of members from Mannheim Islamic communities. So if I am, or if we are negotiating with the German federal ministry about budget and indicators, of course, then I'm the insider as a civil servant, yeah. But if we are negotiating with the mayor in Turkey, then our members from the Islamic Community Center are the insiders because they come from there, they speak the language. So it's a question of perspective, and I strongly believe that the success in international relations has a lot to do with co-creation.
Yes, and obviously, I really like the example that you just mentioned. Obviously, it's an environment in which diversity really thrives. As you just explained, it's having people with all these different perspectives, but also different insights, different cultural backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, professional backgrounds, eventually, at least for you, seems to add up to very successful projects internationally.
I mean, I would say diversity is really one of the prerequisites for successful international relations. And I mean, we as a department, we are actively searching for, let's say, staff members who are fluent in Chinese, for example, or who have different cultural backgrounds. So that's I think if you have to be a little bit provocative, if you have a problem with diversity, you should not work in international relations.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't want to have guests, if guests at home are disturbing you, you don't invite guests, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to close this a little bit, because it really appears as if the two of you were complementing each other quite well. Yeah, just basically fitting like pieces of a puzzle to achieve things that none of you could achieve independently. Yet, are there still things that you would say you're sometimes envy of the other in terms of skills, but also maybe in terms of position or in terms of authority? Is there anything you sometimes think, oh, I would like to be a little bit more like David, or to be a little bit more like Rainer?
So if you allow, I would start because the question is very interesting, and to be very honest, to envy is for me not a relevant category. So if I think, is there anybody in the world I envy for, then I only think of my 8-year-old son because he can memorize a book after reading it 2 times. I can't do that. But I don't want to evade your question, but maybe that's the other side of the coin. The question is, what can I learn from others? And in this case, what can I learn from Rainer? This is, to my understanding, maybe a little bit more positive and productive. And I really want to open the curtain because I thought in preparation of our interview, what did I learn from Rainer especially? And what I really could learn from Rainer, and what I really did learn actually from him, is about the power of culture. And I do not mean culture as a driver of city development. I mean, you can read a lot of books about that. But really what you can learn from Rainer is to use culture as a bridge between people. And he mentioned that we have been on several business trips together, and it's amazing to see his ability to build personal relations with people from very different cultures and backgrounds through music, through literature, and so on. And indeed, I would not use the term envy, but I want to say that I have really utmost respect for this ability from Rainer that he really brings to every project and every encounter.
Beautiful.
And
Rainer.
I would have started my answer exactly the same way David did. I wouldn't think about envy something. That's like it is. I would also look at this from a different point of view, and nearly the same as David said. Very often, I really when I work together with David, when we have an intense talk together, when we sit for an hour, very rarely we have time to sit for an hour and discuss. But when we do that, I always think we should do that every day, minimum an hour, which is impossible for us. But and then very often when I have another meeting or I meet a friend or go back home, then I say, I really admire this guy, the knowledge he's having and the analytical approach. And that's exactly when I was asking myself, what did I learn from David? And what you can learn is that if you combine knowledge, and this is extremely important, no political party can have a program without having the word education in it. But I'm talking about knowledge now, the knowledge he's having, which comes from experience, but also from dealing with topics very deep, with subjects. So, and what you can see with David, the knowledge he's having, and combined with the analytical skills, it's extremely important in international work because it's maximum complex, everything. It's different, it's total diversity, it's different cultures, as we said already. And it's diplomatic questions are involved. And if you don't bring analytical skills with you based on knowledge, then you're lost. And for me, David, it's always it's when I have a talk with him, it's every time that I go out of the room and think, it's incredible. I admire this guy for his analytical approaches and the knowledge behind that. And that's fantastic because he's sharing his knowledge with me. So my knowledge is getting more when I'm meeting him. That's fantastic.
This sounds like quite a good partnership. Thank you very much for this conversation, and I wish the two of you the best of luck and success for your upcoming projects, and hopefully many, many more successes together for the city of Mannheim and maybe even beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same for you, Teresa. Thank you.